Hello everyone, myself Om Prakash Katte, and today we are discussing the class 12th biology chapter, the principles of inheritance and variation, and the topic for today's discussion is principle of dominance and recessiveness. Students, when Mendel worked on monohybrid cross, he found the many observations. On basis of this observation of the monohybrid cross, the Mendel gave the two laws. Mendel gave the two principles which we used to say the Mendel's law or principles of the Mendels. Actually, these are the rules framed by the Mendel on basis of observation of monohybrid cross. So, Mendel gave the two principles or two laws on basis of observation of monohybrid cross. First law is called law of dominant. It is called law of dominance, and it is also said law of dominant and recessiveness. And second law he proposed, that is law of segregation of gametes. So in these two laws, they were based on basis of monohybrid cross observation. So today we are discussing law of dominant. Second law, law of segregation, we will discuss later. So first we have to discuss what is the law of dominant. Students, we have seen in monohybrid cross, in F1 progeny, the alleles of two parents comes, but the alleles of one parent is expressed and alleles of other parent is hidden. So in such cases what happens? The characteristic of one parent is expressed in the hybrid and characteristic of other parent is suppressed or hidden. So what is this law of dominance? First you see the definition of the law of dominance. When a pair of contrasting characters are trait, it means that a pair of characters are crossed. When a pair of contrasting traits crossed, a contrasting factor, it means allele, it expressed in the F1 hybrid. So a pair of contrasting characters are crossed and the allele which expressed in the F1 hybrid, it is called dominant alleles. Dominant alleles is an allele which expressed in the F1 generation and the characteristic of the allele is called dominant trait. And other alleles which remain hidden, this other allele is remain hidden is called recessive allele, and the characteristic of allele is called the recessive trait. So you try to understand here. I am having the tall plant, genotype capital T, and dwarf plant, genotype small t. When they are crossed, so a pair of contrasting characters are crossed. So in F1 generation, I am getting the hybrid capital T and small t, and their character is tall plant. Okay. So in F1 generation, tall plant is appear. In this tall plant appears, tall plant is the expression of allele T. So the allele expressed in F1 hybrid, it is called dominant allele. So capital T is a dominant allele and the dominant character is tall plant. So it is the expression of the dominant alleles. In F1 generation, the allele which is expressed is called the dominant allele and characteristic of allele is called the dominant trait. In this F1 generation, allele T is small t is also present, but this allele do not express here. Dwarf plant is not obtained. So this allele is called the recessive allele and the characteristic of allele is the recessive trait. So it means what? When one pair of character cross, the character which appear in the F1 generation is dominant trait and which hidden in the F1 generation, it is a recessive trait. But in F2 generation, when F1 hybrid is self-pollinated, then F2 generation, what we are getting? We are getting phenotype ratio 3:1. It means 3 plants are the tall plant and 1 plant is a short plant. So here we are getting the phenotypic ratio tall 3 and dwarf 1. Genotype ratio we are getting 1:2:1. So in this law of dominant Mendel said, if one pair of contrasting character are crossed, then character which appear in the F1 progeny is dominant and which is hidden is called the recessive trait. Allele which express is called the dominant allele and the allele which do not express in the hybrid is called the recessive allele. By the total conclusion, these are the main point of law of dominant. First, traits are controlled by the discrete. So Mendel said the traits are controlled by the discrete unit, and this unit he said the factor. This is the first point of the law of dominant. What? Traits are controlled by the discrete unit. One unit is responsible for the expression of the trait, and this unit is called the factor. Second point, the factors occur in the pair. So you will see capital T, small t, small t. Heterozygous also, capital T and small t, 2 alleles are here. So factors occurs in pair. This is the second point of the law of dominant. Third is in dissimilar factor. It means here heterozygous condition I am talking, capital T and small t. Dissimilar factor, one member, one allele is a dominant, whereas other member is a recessive. So this is the third point. In dissimilar factor, it means heterozygous factor, one member is a dominant, one allele is the dominant and other allele is the recessive. Then next point is expression only one parent. So in F1 generation, only one parental trait is expressed. Here you will see only tall plants is expressed, tall and dwarf are crossed. In F1 generation, only one parental trait is expressed. So expressions only one parental trait in the F1 hybrid. Here only one character is expressed in the F1 hybrid. Whereas in F2 generation, tall plant and dark plant, it means both characteristics are appear in the F2 generation. So law of dominant, in this case, dominant allele and recessive allele, or we have said dominant trait and recessive trait ratio is obtained. It is 3:1. So dominant, and 1, 3 are the dominant and 1 is a recessive trait. So in law of dominant, we have to write. Law of dominant we have to write. Traits are controlled by discrete unit, which is called the factor. Factors are occurs in the pair. Dissimilar factor, one member is dominant and another is recessive. Only one parental character is appear in the F1 hybrid. But in F2 hybrid, both characteristics are appear. And ratio of dominant trait and recessive trait is, it is 3:1. In F2 generation, the F2 generation ratio comes 3:1. So overall this law of dominant, what is the important? Students, in F1 generation only one trait which is dominant is expressed. It means recessive character is hidden. So what happened? Harmful recessive characters are trait, they hidden in the hybrid. So recessive character which are harmful, they do not express in the hybrid. And such type of character in human beings, suppose idiocy, it is stupidness, diabetes and hemophilia. Okay, so this type of characters are the recessive trait, and this type of recessive trait, they do not express in the heterozygous progeny. So this is an important of law of dominant. These things is given in a one topic. Now the Law of dominance, explanation of the concept of the dominant we have to understand after this. So, concept of the expression of the dominant trait. So, explanation of concept of the dominant trait. So, first I told you dominant trait is a trait which expressed in the F1 progeny. This explanation of the concept of dominant, first we should remember the diploid organism. So this diploid organism, it means 2N organism. It may be homozygous, capital T, tall plant, or homozygous, small t, dwarf plant, or heterozygous also. So diploid organism may be homozygous or may be heterozygous. So it is diploid organism. Second, if you will see in this diploid organism, allele are similar, same alleles, only capital T. In this, allele is small t. But in this organism, there are two alleles. One allele is capital T and another allele is a small t. So, each allele, either this allele or this allele or this allele or this allele, each allele is express its own trait. So, capital T is there, so it expresses the tallness. If small t is there, it expresses the dwarfness. Okay. So, third point of this one, diploid organism, such type of organism, and they have this allele. Heterozygous organism is having capital T and small t. In this example, this capital T, small t. So, alleles of heterozygous is capital T and small t. Capital T expresses the tallness and small t expresses the darkness. Now, why do we say that some alleles are dominant and some alleles are recessive? Here, dominant character we are saying T is the dominant allele and small t is a recessive. So, why do we call this? Some alleles are dominant and some alleles are recessive. Why? Or what is exactly the dominant? So, we have to understand what is exactly the dominant or why these some alleles are dominant and recessive. Students, first one you will see in class 10th we have learned in nucleus there is a thread-like structure which is called the chromosome. Chromosome is present. The chromosome contains the DNA. DNA is a genetic material and segment of DNA is called the gene. Now, this gene is synthesizes the one enzyme. This enzyme is produced by the gene. This enzyme activated the formation of the one substance which we used to say hormones. And due to the hormones, the plant become tall. So, why this plant is a tall? There is this background because there are some genes. And these genes are synthesizing or producing the enzyme. Due to the enzyme, more hormones are secreted and that's why the plant or tree is tall. So, the plants are tall. So, it is what? Here it is gene express the trait. Similarly, if capital T is gene is there, so this capital T will form the tall plant. Because capital G synthesizes some enzyme. Due to this enzyme, some hormones are formed. If more hormones are formed, or growth hormones I would use say, so growth hormones are formed, then plant will be taller. Suppose the small t, small recessive allele here. So this is also one allele. This allele also synthesizes the one enzyme. These enzymes will produce the less hormones. So if less hormones is produced, in such cases, the plant will be dull. So this is the expressions of the trait by the allele. Now, there are two types of allele. First used to say it is called dominant allele. First I am writing dominant allele. Our dominant allele is also known as unmodified allele. Unmodified. And other name is also here functional allele. So, Either you will say functional allele or you will say dominant. Dominant allele, it means allele expressed in F1 generation. Unmodified, later we are discussing. First, functional allele, because this allele synthesizes the normal enzyme. If allele synthesizes the normal enzyme, that is called the functional allele. Dominant allele, as I told you, it expressed in F1 progeny. Now, if you will see capital T and small t heterozygous condition, this allele, as I told you, it is the dominant allele, or you are saying unmodified allele or functional allele, because this produces the normal enzyme. Second allele is called the recessive allele, and this recessive allele is expressed differently with this capital T. It is unmodified, it means in these cases normal enzyme is synthesized, but if small t is the allele, it is called recessive allele, and this recessive allele is non-functional allele. So recessive allele is non-functional allele, it means this allele do not produces the enzyme. So if enzyme is not produces, so there are less amounts of hormones will be synthesized. So with less amount of hormone synthesized, then plant will be dog. So here you understand only two things. Dominant allele we used to say, or it is unmodified allele or functional allele. And I have written the capital T. So when this dominant allele T, capital T is present, so normal enzyme will be synthesized and substrate or hormones is formed and plant will be tall. But second, if you will see, recessive allele, small t is a recessive allele, and this allele is a modified allele. Why it is called the modified allele? Because capital T and small t, this function is synthesize the more enzyme, and this is dominant allele. But the functions of these alleles are different, so it is called modified allele, because the function of this small t allele are different than capital T allele, and that's why it is called unmodified allele, and this allele function are different than this one, and that is called modified allele. So recessive allele or modified allele, or this is also called non-functional allele. In such cases, what happens if there is a recessive allele? Modified alleles or recessive alleles could be responsible for. So if there recessive allele is there, so recessive allele will form the three type of production are done. Modified allele could be responsible for production of number one, normal or less efficient enzyme. In such cases, what happens? This recessive allele, sometimes it acts as dominant allele. It means recessive allele is act as a dominant allele and properly its enzyme is secreted. When enzyme is secreted in the enough quantity, so this will show the characteristic of the tall plant. It means in this case the modified allele and unmodified allele, it means to see capital T and small t. Capital T I told you unmodified allele and small t modified allele. So if you will see, their modified and unmodified alleles are in equilibrium in the same quantity. When it is happen, if the modified allele or recessive allele will act as a dominant allele, it synthesizes the enzyme, and in such cases, this first condition will be arises. It means there is an equilibrium of unmodified allele, it means dominant allele and recessive allele. So unmodified it means it is the dominant allele and this is recessive allele. So if dominant alleles and recessive alleles are equal, in such cases the dominant traits will be expressed. So the traits will express that will be dominant. So in normal, first one, modified allele normal enzyme is synthesized, in such cases the dominant and recessive allele will be equal. It means unmodified and modified alleles will be same, and like the genotype, capital T, small t, it means 50% is the capital T, 50% is the small t. In such cases what happen? Dominant trait is appear. So dominant trait is appear in case when normal enzyme. But if non-functional enzyme is there or no enzyme is there, so in such cases, if no enzyme synthesizes, so if no enzyme is synthesizes, it means what? Synthesis of enzyme, no enzyme, no synthesis of enzyme, or less enzyme is synthesized. In such cases, the dominant trait will not express. So not express. So which will be expressed? In such cases, the recessive trait is expressed. Recessive trait is expressed. So try to understand here simply. Dominant alleles is also called unmodified allele, and it is the functional allele because it synthesizes the normal enzyme, and this form one substance which is called the hormones, which is responsible for the growth of the plant. That's why the plant is tall. But if recessive alleles are here, that they are different than the dominant allele, so that we call the modified allele. And this also called non-functional allele because capital T and small t is present. In such cases, capital T will be expressed, then small t will not express, and that's why it is the non-functional allele. So non-functional allele could be responsible for production of what? The normal enzyme. If normal enzyme is produced, then dominant characteristic is appear because here unmodified and modified alleles will be equal. They will be equal, and such cases dominant trait will be appear. If non-functional enzymes and no enzymes are there, in such cases dominant character will not express and recessive trait is expressed. So you will see here capital T, small t, here dominant trait will express because capital T is here. Capital T, both alleles are dominant, so dominant trait appear. Here also one T is there, dominant allele. But in such cases, the third one position, non-functional enzyme and no enzyme is here, so recessive trait will appear. So the appearance of the recessive trait, what is this? It shows that there no enzyme is synthesized or non-functional enzyme is synthesized. So this is the explanation of concept of domination. Thank you.